Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Facebook Live Heart to Heart with My series, produced in partnership with the nonprofit Lyceum Globo. If this is your first time tuning in, I just want to do a quick intro. I'm Mai, your host, and I created this series last year as a platform to share inspiring stories of everyday people. They can be entrepreneurs, professionals, parents, author, coaches, teacher. It doesn't really matter the role. What matter are the stories of their life, as I find that I learn so much from these stories. So let me know that you're listening by giving me a thumbs up in the comment and a few hearts. It makes a difference knowing that you're there. And if you want more unique sharing from me and other guests, you can also listen to my podcast with the same name, Heart to Heart with My, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platform as well. So now back to tonight's guest. I met him a while ago, years back then, when I joined the Toronto chapter of the North American Association of Asian Professionals. And right away, I noticed how funny and welcoming he was. And he was also very open to helping and connecting others. And with his experience running successful companies, he was always mentoring other young entrepreneurs. So, of course, life goes on. And one day I ran back to him. I met him again as his daughter and my son were in the same junior kindergarten class. We had a chance to catch up, but very little. But tonight, I look forward to chatting with him because I know he's been up to some amazing things over the past few years. So at this point, I want to introduce you to Mr. Jeremy Choi, a husband, father, entrepreneur, number one best-selling author, and an irredeemable golf addict. So please help me welcome Jeremy to Heart with My. Hi, Jeremy. You there?
Hey. Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for the
Awesome. Hi, how are you?
pretty good. As good as we can be, given the situation we're all in, right? This global pandemic.
For
Of
sure,
course.
I know. We all are trying our best to stay positive, I guess, right? And just to
Yep.
focus day by day. I feel that's the best that we can do, and not worry too much into the future, as lots of uncertainties. But you're here tonight, and I really, have admired some of the businesses that you've been able to build, and so please share with me, as well as those who might not know you, maybe a little bit about your story, your journey. How did you even get into becoming an entrepreneur and into what you're doing today? Maybe going back to when you were a student. Please share that story.
Well, the entrepreneur journey has probably been over, I think, probably 23 years. Always been doing it since I was kind of younger. I actually uh, funny enough, I sold these little mini cigarettes called beaties. It's like Indian cigarettes
Oh, yes.
when I was really, really young, and it was not a good thing to do back then. But it was something that that was my first entrepreneur journey. Getting into buying low, selling high. Supply demand and all that kind of stuff. And that was like when I was much younger. Then I got to a point where I started doing smaller businesses like web design, web hosting, and my very first clients is actually a school in the TDS, and I got a couple more schools, and soon later, I was managing a dozen or 2 dozen schools and stuff. But yeah, that was fun back then. And then my parents said, "Get a real job, do something,
Like every
do
Asian
something."
parent.
That's right. Yeah, go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer, or do something with computers, be an engineer. So they actually, funny enough, they put me into this computer school. It used to be called W.A. Porter, but they renamed it to SATEC. Don't even ask me what it stands for now. I don't recall, but it was supposed to be the up and coming technology school and all that kind of stuff. So I went to school, did everything, went to university, came out of university, applied. Actually, halfway through university, I actually left because I was studying computer science. I didn't want to be a
Oh,
programmer.
so
Yeah, I
halfway
didn't
through
want to
you
be a
left.
programmer. Yeah, about 2.5 years in.
Okay.
University was great times, but I was at U of T 2.5 years in. I said, I'm leaving. I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to be in a cubicle doing programming. And I said, I really found passion in advertising. So I
Mm.
really love creating ads because what I've noticed is that every time I'm watching like TV shows or movies and stuff like that, I would actually enjoy the commercial more than the show or the movie itself. You know,
Mm.
it's like Super Bowl, right?
Mm.
I watch the commercials, so I'm there watching commercials while everyone's getting food, and the game's back on. I'm gonna go get food. You know, that was kind of me, right? So but yeah, I found that passion in advertising. So I went to study advertising, and then after graduating, I tried to apply for different jobs. No one would hire me. I think I handed at least 50 resumes, 60 resumes. Um, Sat by the phone, waited for like weeks. You know, follow up, waited for weeks, nothing. And I said, you know what, forget this. I'll do it on my own. And that's kind of when I started my own agency. Yeah, me and a business partner. My first one was JC and JC, and we were acquired in 2008, if I recall
Okay.
correctly, 2007, 2008. Yeah, and that business afterwards, after was acquired, I was a partner in that business, and that got sold in 2013. And ever since then, I've been just kind of dabbling, investing here and there. Some successful, some not so much, you know. So
Yes. So that's so awesome. Now I remember because I think you shared with this with me a while ago, but I forgot how you mentioned that you actually left university and that you applied for all these jobs. And so a lot of people just, I think when it comes to the entrepreneurship, we always see the end result, the success, such as you selling your company, but we didn't see all the lessons or what we call failures prior
yeah,
to our success, right? And thank you so much for sharing both of that journey as well too. So let's talk about your journey as an entrepreneur, where you're building up companies, and now you have moved on to definitely a couple more different projects. But before you even get to sell a company, I assume in the beginning as an entrepreneur with your partner, you were doing everything. You were doing a lot of things yourself. But did you find that you had to scale up in terms of like hiring a team? Like, how did you manage all of that? Because I find it's like that chicken and egg. Like a lot of entrepreneurs started out with this vision and they did everything themselves until they were burnt out. So either they leave the business or they have to find a way to grow it to the point where it's a profitable business that they can actually sell, like you mentioned. So can you share a little bit about your experience in terms of that?
yeah, 100%. I mean, when I first started all the businesses, even till now, I do a lot of the work myself. I take on a lot of work myself. It's kind of I equate it to kind of like the chef in the kitchen,
Mm,
right? You don't know how to cook. You're just, and the heart of the business is kind of the chef, right? The food that it produces. If you don't understand it, then you're going to be taken advantage of, right? So I took it upon myself to try to learn as much as possible, but it definitely gets to a point where there's no way you can do everything. I can't be doing bookkeeping, account management, creative, design. I can't be doing, there's only so much time in a day. And then I realized that I needed to invest in people. And the more people I brought on, the more I was able to free up my time to do the things that are important. Actually, what got me to really think about hiring someone was actually a guy named Cameron Harold. He wrote a
mm,
book called Double Double, and now he runs a COO kind of a mastermind networking group, and course and all that kind of stuff. But basically, he told me one day, he said, you know what, get a spreadsheet, record everything you're doing, like by the hour, by the minute, just record everything. And then after you've done it for a whole week, now assign a value to everything you're doing. All the tasks that you're assign a value. If anything is worth less than $150 an hour, don't do it. Give it to someone else. You know what I mean? Like that, at least, well, you kind of say, well, how much is your time worth, right? And I say, well, I don't know, $150 or whatever, right? And then
yeah.
he said, okay, anything less than $150, don't do it. Why are you spending your time doing that? So and it's really tough because as an entrepreneur, you're looking at cash flow. You're most of the time you're either self-funding,
Yeah.
so you don't have the capital to just go invest.
Yes.
So what I did is I actually went to take a little loan. I gambled a little, you know what I mean, in terms of investing into somebody and hoping that there was a return.
Yeah.
And it paid off. I've don't get me wrong, I've had some bad employees, bad team members, but I've also had some really awesome rock stars.
Mm.
And and as I went on, as I now the team bigger and bigger, I'm building it differently. I'm learning new things all the time. In the past, I was hiring people that were like myself. I was like, oh, I like them. Okay, perfect. You can come in and work, right? You're like me. But I realized that hiring people like me, you just don't get shit done, right? And things that are just, it's you like them as a person, but they're not effective in the business. So that was a huge hiring mistake. And now I've actually, since writing the book, the way we kind of run our business, the book was, me and my business partner kind of co-wrote the book. He wrote the content is pretty much 90% like his stuff, right? I added some of my entrepreneurial like mindset, that kind of stuff into it. But in terms of sports athletics, that's his domain, right? I don't know as much as he does and all that stuff. But the premise of it is that I run a company like a sports team.
Mm.
I run it like a sports team. So it's not about who has more seniority. It's about who is putting that extra effort into making, like Kobe Bryant, he misses a 3-pointer in his book, Mamba Mentality. He talks about he misses the 3-pointer and he was so mad at himself because he ran out of energy. So he went the very night, he went to train and he shot like 1,000 shots. You know what I mean? And he just kept doing it because he's promised to himself that the next time that happened, he would have the strength to throw that ball into the basket. So in a sense that I want to hire more of these kind of like rock stars that are going to go above and beyond to become superstars, or above and beyond to be, won't settle for status quo, is willing to do more than what is necessary. That way, they can earn a position on the team. Because on our gym floor, I'm talking about strictly the gym right now, on our gym floor, you're only going to have about 2 coaches on it, 2 to 3. And we have about 5, 6 coaches fighting for that spot. You know what I mean? So I'm going to only put in, just like a sports team would, the people that will help us win that championship. So are you doing the extra effort to make sure we win a championship? And if you're not, well, you're going to be benched. I'm sorry. Like that's it. I want to, well, me and my partner, we want to, the whole team, we want to build the best athletes in the world. We want to build athletes to dominate. So if we don't have coaches that are willing to go above and beyond and make that a priority, make that vision for themselves, well, if they can't be that like that themselves, how can they even coach an athlete to become a world-class athlete? It's not possible.
Awesome.
So.
Make total sense. My husband loves his basketball game, and hence I am also forced to watch them, and I totally understand. And when you talk about Mamba mentality, yes, I actually been meaning to read that book as well too, and so I'm excited. So you read the book then? So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You touched on about your, I assume this is your new venture as well as the book, right? The LPS Athletic Center. So since you already mentioned about that, can you backtrack a little bit and talk about, so after you sold that other company, what led you to now partnering up and owning an athletic center? Can you share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, people ask me that quite often because they're like, oh, this is huge, like 360. You were doing advertising, then you were doing marijuana, then you're doing web, and now you're doing gym. Like, how does your passion just kind of shift, right? But the gym business, how I got into is because I've always loved sports. Ever
Mm.
since I was growing up, I've always wanted to be in the NBA.
Mm.
Physically, Asian 5'7", you're not going to be able to play and compete in the NBA. It was just not possible. But when I was younger, I did not realize that. I would dribble to 3 in the morning every night in the basement or going outside. My parents would literally yell, "Jeremy, stop dribbling the ball," stop bouncing the ball in the house, right? So I would go outside, and there was community hoops, and I would play, and I would be the first one there, last one out. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I always bug my friends, let's go shoot hoops, let's go shoot hoops. I played on a high school team, and played at a higher level, university and stuff like that. And I being being so much in love with basketball, where my dreams are kind of crushed, that there's no way. I got to a point where in university I realized that I would never get to that next level.
Mm.
So then I kind of stopped all sports. Like I literally stopped all sports, and I was like, you know what, forget it. Then I concentrated on building businesses. I ballooned. I was, 100 and, regular 145, 150 pounds. And, while doing, like, you met me when, during NAP, right? You're at the, and I was probably a buck 60, buck 70, but I was starting to, at that point I was already starting to balloon up. I got to the point where I was almost 185 pounds, right, at like almost 30% body fat, and I was extremely unhappy physically with myself, right, and also mentally, because I knew that I wasn't um, I love physical activities, I love sports, and it was something that I didn't have time or the energy to get into. And I felt like I remember playing sorry I remember playing basketball again at that body weight and thing, and you're just dribbling and you're going, and I'm just, after like 2 minutes I'm panting, like I'm just dying on the court. And I see my shadow, because I know that I could have been at, like, 2 steps ahead,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to do the same stuff I was doing back in university,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, wow, I am so slow. It's like, why am I so slow? Anyways, it was very discouraging. And now backtrack it back. My dad introduced me to golf. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, golf, that's an old person sport. I don't want to play it. You know what I mean? He's like, no, 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 just play, just play. And that was in 2010. So I started playing some golf, and, for anyone that's ever played golf, it's like, at the beginning it's like super boring game, but once you hit that really nice one shot, you're like, you just get hooked. It's like a bug. It's like people call it a bug, right? Like this golf addict, right? So I got really addicted to it, and I just loved it. So the love of sport kind of came back,
Mm.
and I was looking for trainers to train me, to get me back into shape. So I paid thousands of dollars going to personal trainers, to different, golf specific trainers. Nothing worked. Then I found this gym, LPS Athletic Center. Well, before it was called Layla Performance System. I found this gym. Clance was the owner at that time, and now my business partner. And he actually taught me a lot about strength training and speed training and just development in general. I got more results in 3 months than I had like 3 years training in other places. It was absolutely crazy. I was mind blown. Like I didn't believe it, right? So long story short, he got me results, and at one point he wanted to expand his business. He wanted to get out of the downtown core to go to North York to get a bigger space. So he was looking for partners, and he hit me up and said, hey, you've been working with us really well, and I help him with his brand and all that kind of stuff. And he said, do you want to come in and partner up? So then I invested some money in, and now we're 50-50 partners.
Ah,
So
that's
yeah.
amazing. So that's amazing. But it started with getting back to that thing that you love, which is sports, right? I see when you talk about sports, I can see that light in your eyes. You seem so excited, like a little kid again. Which is amazing. And being able to marry that with a business that you can help grow. I mean, I understand now, though, at this very moment, as many other gyms or facilities, I mean, COVID has really put a dent on in that business. But just to hear your story that you're able to, get into that business, and are there things that you're doing right now to help you pivot within that business at the current moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look back, I don't know, 6, 7 months when, oh, probably no more than that, April, May, we lost about 70, 80, yeah, about 80% of our revenue.
Mm,
Right. And that was pretty devastating. We had to let go of a lot of team. Fortunately, we bankrolled enough money that I was actually able to pay some of the coaches to kind of just stay on. Just say,
mm,
hey, look, even if I don't get paid, because I sent out a email to the entire staff and just called pretty much everybody's pretty much said, hey, look, I'm not going to take any money myself,
mm,
I'm not going to take any money, in the foreseeable future. But I bankrolled enough that I'm able to, if everyone took a small kind of a pay cut, then I'm willing to at least keep everyone on board while this kind of pandemic was going on. And that's kind of what I did. Everyone agreed, instead of letting one or two people go, everyone agreed to take a pay reduction, and I was able to keep everybody, at least for the time being, keep them sane, keep them healthy. And then from that point on, I think a lot of my team members were kind of depressed. Even myself, I was like, man, like, how long is this pandemic gonna go? Right? They said, oh, 2 weeks shutdown. Okay, cool. 2 weeks became 4 weeks. 4 weeks became a month. A couple months, and then a month, half a year went by.
yeah.
Right? It's crazy. So it was extremely stressful time. And then not only that, my landlord is not applying for rent relief. So that didn't help either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we had to keep paying rent, keep paying people, yet we can't open up. So
Mm,
yeah, it was rough. It was but what good came out of it, though, the positive side of things, is that everyone was meeting remotely. Actually, my business partner, I remember just getting him, hey guys, let's all meet at 9 a.m. Let's get together at 9 o'clock every day, and let's go on Zoom, and let's just work. Let's just work. Doesn't matter what the work is, but let's just work. Let's just talk. Let's bring that human interaction back in, and let's just work. And then we redid our kind of strategic um, plan for the rest of the year. We talked about finishing the book, because we started probably 6 months before the pandemic. We said,
mm,
we're going to book, and we did all the chapters, all that stuff. But this pandemic, this COVID, we got everyone to stay home. Guess what? Me and my business partner, we just blasted through writing. We said every
mm,
day we're just going to sit here and we're just going to write, and we're going to write, and we're going to write. And guess what? The book is published.
yeah,
And honestly, that was like the best thing that's come out of this whole situation, was that we
yeah.
actually got some work. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So everyone that's listening, what the book that Jeremy talked about is this book that I saw you post, and when you mentioned that, and it became a best-selling book, I was really, I guess, what would you say? I was really impressed, and I was really inspired, because I personally also want to write a book, and I know many people want to write a book, but wanting and finishing a book is a very different thing, right? And so the book that Jeremy mentioned is actually called Dominate. They Can't Ignore You, Remapping the Athlete's Body to Develop Level, which is amazing. Just even the title itself, Dominate, was really catchy for me. So let's talk about that book a little bit. I know when you shared about the book launch, and I mentioned I want to ask you about the book, you mentioned that I should talk to Clarence, as he's the one, 90% of the content is coming from him. But as I have you here, do share with me the inspiration behind the book. And if I'm not an athlete per se, would I get some value from just reading that book, even though it says it's for athletes? But I always find these stories can always apply to different parts of life as well. So can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, we've actually had more executives, I would say, like entrepreneurs, that actually reach out to me and said that the book has made a difference in their business,
Mm,
than the athletes have made a difference in their lives, right? And it's crazy. If you look on Amazon, the reviews, a lot of them are executives too. I would say probably about like 30% are like entrepreneurs that are reading this book, and they're seeing, like, because the principles apply to sports as they do to life,
mm,
that we put in this book. And it's about like a champion kind of a mindset. It's about doing what other people won't, is not willing to do. so you can kind of have what other people can't have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that, you know, for a professional athlete, for an athlete to go professional, there is so much more than just being good at your sport. There is so much more. It is more than just being physically strong, or mentally strong, or just talented. There's so much more. And so that's what this book kind of dives into that. But that applies to a lot of executives. Actually, one of my one entrepreneur kind of reached out to me, say, "Hey, I just fired 2 people because I read your book." I was like, "Oh man, really? I feel so bad." But he's like, "No, no, 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 no. It's a good thing because I realized that I want to dominate my
Mm,
industry. I
mm,
want to be the best." And I realized these 2 people were holding the company back, and I
mm.
had to let them go. I wanted to. Funny, he actually said, "I want to run my company like a sports team, like you said." I was like, "Bang on, there you go," right? That's what it is. Like sometimes you just gotta attract the right people, because what happens when you attract the right people is that everything just exponentially gets better,
Mhm.
because everyone's feeding energy off each other. In fact, we have this thing in our gym that we don't talk about in the book, and it's a word called Ubuntu. I don't know if you've heard of this word, but search it up. It's hard for me to define the meaning. Ubuntu. It's Ubuntu.
UB.
U Untu. And Ubuntu, and if I break it down to it, a simple core is that I am because you are.
Mm,
And what that kind of means is that as a whole team, if I push your level up, you will push my level up. I'm
mm,
going to help. Everything I have is because you are. So I'm going to do my best to coach. I am doing my best to coach you up, give you everything that I know so then you can be better. Because when you're better, I become better.
mm. That's amazing. And I love that concept because it's really drawing out and focusing on the positive. It's not the scarcity mindset, which is if you're so great, that means there's not much left for me. But it's really thinking abundance, where if we all give our best, there's just so much room for us all to grow. That's amazing. And, you know, I'm so excited. I actually, for everyone listening in, I will share the link on the Amazon to the book if you're interested in, because I myself am interested in getting the book and reading. Do you have an audio version yet? Not probably not yet.
Not yet. It's so we went through the process of hiring someone to read the book, because
Yes.
with Amazon Publishing, they have this thing called the ADX, and you know you kind of hire someone to read the book. But the thing is, the book is written in such way that there's so much passion behind each word.
Mm.
It really requires either myself or my business partner to actually. In fact, I would say it requires my business partner, Clance, to actually read it
I
and to read
see.
it. Like, so we haven't had time to do it. However, it is on our kind of to-do list to kind of get done. But we really like the physical copy. It's been really good so far. We launched. We were PK Subban couple weeks back, no, a couple months back, did a whole thing. You know, signed 25 copies of the book because he actually wrote the foreword, and
Mhm.
he shared it with his social media audience and all that kind of stuff. And we raised probably $1,018 for Jumpstart charities,
Oh,
which
that's
is
amazing.
giving kids, you know, ages 4 to 18 the equal opportunity to have like access to sports.
Mm.
But that's where why we did it is because it's actually part of why we even wrote the book, because we've seen the dramatic increases. It was actually PK's mom that actually inspired us to work with kids. We never used to work with kids. We only usually work with, you know, elite level athletes or people that want to go pro, but they
Mhm.
usually maybe about 13, 14-year-old. It would be the youngest we ever work with. But Maria kind of told clients that, hey, you got to work with young kids because these kids' injury rates are going higher. They're coming with bad things. And we noticed that. We got kids that are like 9-year-old, 10-year-old, even 13, 15-year-old that come in that can't even do a push up or a chin up. And they're
Mm.
playing at the highest level of sport. They're playing at the highest levels where they can't even manage their body weight. And and you know how physical hockey is, right? Or basketball,
Yes.
right? It's physical.
Yes.
So if you can't manage your own body weight, you're gonna get destroyed. Your body's gonna break down. No matter how talented you are, you're gonna be pushed over, right? You're gonna hurt yourself. So what we've done is that we realized, man, I don't understand why kids are not actually physically, able to do the things that they should be able to do. So we decided to work with young kids, and from that we noticed and we learned and we did our research that in sports, over 20% of kids get a major injury.
Mm.
And we're trying to backtrack and see why that's the case, and that number is steadily increasing year after year. I think right now it's at up to like 25%. So 1 in 4 kids are seriously injured, while playing. I'm just talking about sports in general. And we attribute it to the fact that most of them can't even manage their own body, so they're going to be hurt. It's just a matter of time. They will be hurt. It's just a matter of time. So writing this book is making us let them know that they need a certain amount of training. They need a certain amount of, even if it's just managing their own body. I'm not saying that they need to come to our gym. We don't care if they come to our gym. We're not for everyone. We're only for the ultra people that really want to go pro. If you don't have an aspiration or aspiration to go become a professional athlete or compete for Team Canada, represent the country and stuff like that, chances are you won't fit in our gym, and that's okay. But I'm talking about the general public. They need their kids to be trained in a way that they need to be able to manage their own body weight. At least be able to do some push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups, move and be able to absorb the forces that the sports have. So that's why we wrote the book, because we want to be able to impact more people and change the way people are training. I want to see these injury rates go down. I don't want to see 25%. That's scary. Yeah. I have 2 kids. You know that. I have, Carly and Casey, one's 7 and one's 4, both girls. And you know what they do every day with me, right? In the mornings, they do push-ups with me. They do squats, they do push-ups. Carly tries to do chin-ups, and she's 7-year-old.
Wow.
Right? But that's just body. I wouldn't put weights and all that kind of stuff on them yet, but I just want them to be run, jump, throw, pull and push. These are the basic things, right? I love when they climb the monkey bars. I love it when they go and jump off certain things, because I know they can do it. And I know that it's building that foundation for them, right? For people that can't do what we can't afford to do, be part of us, I always recommend people go take gymnastics, because gymnastic is an amazing base for athletes. The best athletes we've seen all have a decent gymnastic or grew up doing a couple years of gymnastics, because gymnastics is controlling the body weight. It's a lot of doing your own body weight stuff. So
that's so awesome. So now, yes, as you share, this book is not just for athletes, it's for everybody. And it's really your mission to share your work and how the general public can kind of tap into some of, I guess, the trade secrets that you're sharing to really build these athletes that they can apply to their own life. I look forward to that too, reading that, because since this year, I mean, we've always known how important health and fitness is for us, but I think the excuse we give to ourselves is we're too busy doing everything else. Then to really do the fitness that's required. But since this year's yes, like you mentioned, even with the kids, I noticed my son loves being very active, and we are definitely trying to encourage him. But he's the one that tell us, Mom and Dad, there's also these videos where it's like, would you rather work out? And then he would get us to do them. And we're doing push-ups too. So he definitely, I didn't even know about the injury rates and all of that, as you mentioned, but it's amazing that to know that, because definitely I would love to see my children play sports. And they don't have to be professional athletes, like you mentioned, but I think it's an important part of their life to stay fit, because once you have that fitness level, I feel it helps with everything else, with your mind, with your clarity, and it makes you feel happy and proud of the person that you are too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talk about your 2 kids now. This is something I definitely have been talking a lot more to our generation of entrepreneur, because I find back in the days, a lot of the business says the business owners were all about, let's say this is business. So let's say the father was running a business, that's all that they would do. But nowadays, I find a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself who are proud father, like you'd share me your title. And the first thing is your role as a husband and father is first, right? So how do you then maybe can share, how do you juggle between spending the time that you want with your kids as well as running all your businesses? So taking on all these roles that you have, right?
Mm. Well, I treat it as priorities. So I really use my calendar a lot. So I can say that I run my life through my calendar. So what we do is that the family and we always plan out our family stuff first.
Hmm.
And then I plan work around that. Then I plan the fun stuff like, golf and all stuff around that. Right. Of course, there's some give and take and adjustment and stuff,
Yeah.
but family stuff always comes first. Like just like weekends, I try to not do any work. I mainly focus on the family and stuff. And during the weekday, I always want to make sure that I'm present at dinner time or after dinner. Phone is never in the bedroom. Phone is never in the kitchen, right? It's like, it's a set aside, you know what I mean? I don't even look at it and stuff and just focus on the family because I realize, like it's addicting. Don't get me wrong. I look at, like sometimes I'm browsing on Instagram and you realize, oh my God, half an hour has gone by, an hour's gone by and I was just scrolling. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I see myself. I was looking at it. I was like, oh wow, I am browsing a lot. I'm like, why am I scrolling so much? Why am I looking for something more interesting? What's the next interesting? What, like I'm actually talking to myself, like seeing myself doing that. I was like, holy cow, like that is how addictive it is.
Yes.
And I was like, I had to put it down. I
Yes.
had to put it down. It was crazy.
Yes. That's awesome
I'm
you shared.
thinking,
I recently read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talked a lot about these habits that we have, including scrolling. And we totally, it's just because it's such an easy. It's just such an easy habit to do, and it gives us so much pleasure, which is being entertained, right? And our mind, we're always bored, we're always curious, and I think that's what happened. And so, totally agree with what you mentioned is putting your family as a priority first, and then scheduling everything around that. Thank you for that tip. So I always educate about 30 to 40 minutes to these conversations, and I look at the clock and wow, it's already almost 40 minutes. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing your very inspiring stories. So before we say goodbye, do you have any closing words, especially for those looking to follow their dreams, whether it's as a professional athlete or an entrepreneur or whatever it is that they're looking to pursue?
uh, I guess I guess passion. A lot of people people always say like all these entrepreneur gurus and stuff like that. Oh, follow your passion. All that kind of stuff. And for me, I've always had a problem with that because it's
Mm,
like, well, passion kind of changes and all that kind of stuff. I like the idea of whatever you decide to do it with everything you got. You know what I mean? And I find that passion is something that you get when you become good at doing something.
mm,
Because I don't think as you're younger, you don't derive passion. So I don't feel like I have passion for sports, but because my parents put me in so many sporting programs and I get pretty good and people tell me I'm pretty good at sports and I make it to these teams and win these things that I think I developed the passion for sports because of that, because of doing things, because of just putting all my effort into it.
mm.
My wife always makes fun of me because she's like, don't start another sport. Because once I start a sport, what happens is that I buy everything for that sport. I remember getting into bowling, and then I would have like 3 bowling balls at home, bowling shoes and all that. It's like, I would go,
All out.
to the nines and, the greatest thing. Cause if you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it at 100%, 150%. Because if I like it, I'm just going to do it. Right.
Mm,
And that's one of the things about in terms of entrepreneurship and chasing your passion and all that stuff. Like just whatever you decide to do it with all your effort and just go at it. Whether or not you like, if it's your, because sometimes when people ask you, is that really what you're passionate? You start to question yourself. Is that really what I'm passionate about? You know what I mean? You start to
mm.
question. Like, don't let someone ruin it for you by you questioning it. Just do it everything, and you'll learn over time whether or not you love to do it or you don't love to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something you're going to don't feel like you have to choose one thing, and that's the thing you have to do for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? That's one big thing. And the other thing would be, I guess, if it goes back to kind of like fatherhood,
Mm-hmm.
right? um Recently it was a um I was watching this TV documentary or Netflix special. I think it was called The Social
Dilemma.
Dilemma.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And you saw the female teen suicide rates, right?
That's right.
You
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
So it actually got me pretty like freaked out a little bit, you know. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And I can see that's true, because what happened recently was probably, I don't, I guess we're on live Facebook, and it's like shoot, I had to share this to everybody. But a couple of weeks back, my older daughter, she's 7 year old, and she literally said, "Daddy, I'm not pretty."
Mm.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? And I was like, oh man, I didn't even know what to say. I was like taken by side. I was like, no, Carly, you are pretty. You're good look. You know what I mean? You're pretty. You're cute. You're pretty and stuff. And then she's like, no, I'm not. You know, there's so many pretty girls I've seen. You know what I mean? Like she's watching YouTube and she's watching all these things, and she's like, there's so many pretty girls out there. You know, I'm not pretty. And then she'll name some of her classmates that are pretty, and she said she's not pretty, and it was like, it was heartbreaking, right?
Mm.
Um, I don't know if she understood, but I said to her, Carly, you know, Carly, people may like you for your looks,
Mm.
right? But they'll love you for your heart. That's what I said to her, right? I don't know if she truly got it, because I don't think she truly understood it. She's 7 years old, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing I want her to do. I just said, you know, you just got to be the just be who you are, you know, and be. I'm teaching her to be courageous. I'm
Mm.
teaching her to just be curious all the time. So curious, courageous are the two things that I want her to always be. So try something new. Don't be afraid. And if something you fear something, just go at it. Doesn't matter. If you fail, you fail. But
Mhm.
be curious and be courageous. Those are the two things. And but yeah, but when she said that, you know, Daddy, I'm not pretty, like there's nothing you can change. She's 7 years old. Like, why is she thinking about this stuff? But
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear her say that at a 7 year old, because I guess maybe she's watching some YouTube videos, maybe she's people in her class are talking about it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I would just say that, you know, if you have kids and everything, you're dealing with this is just, it's one of those challenges as we get, especially with like technology, with phones and with, you know, YouTube and all that kind of stuff, the influence that these devices and stuff have.
That's right.
It's
Well,
yeah,
I'm glad you actually brought it up. And I think as a mother, a parent, the things that our children are dealing with nowadays is very different than the things that we were dealing with growing up, right? So back then
yeah,
we did not have all this exposure, but I feel that part of sharing and teaching them is about what you mentioned, which is curious and courageous. Is also, as parents, we also have to set that example. So the fact that you can put your phone away, and the fact that it's easy for us to tell our children to behave a certain way and then forget to apply those lessons back to us, because our children are
yeah,
always watching us too, right? So I think that actually watching that have made me more aware of my own actions when it comes to social media and things like that, that I also have to kind of learn to navigate and how best, because my son, who's 6 years old, also have made comments about himself that I'm just like, really? Like, where did you even get that from? And I definitely think that our priority right now, despite our businesses and everything, is really to take care of the little ones that we're bringing into this world. So thank you for bringing add that up as well. And for those of you guys who are interested more on, Jeremy thoughts and his experiences, he actually share his a lot of stories on his blog at jeremychoi.com, right? You have a website as well where you share some of your life lessons on there, so you can connect with him there as well. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining into this weekly live session, and say hello, and let us know if you enjoyed all our conversations as well. But we will see you, I'll see you at the next episode, which is next Friday. And once again, thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on here to speak to my community and my audience on your amazing journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. It was a pleasure.